Good morning, everybody. Obviously, getting quite excited about the documentary "Convicting a Murderer," which has been created by Sean Reck of Transition Studios. And I know that Transition Studios, Sean Reck, have done some excellent work in the past, including a documentary about White Boy Rick, and of course, A Murder in the Park. And I would first of all point out it's easy when you see the trailer to jump to certain conclusions. I would just say, let's wait and see all 10 of the 44-minute episodes before we rush to any judgment on the on how fair we feel the documentary is. And I think we have to give credit to Sean Reck if it's got a mix of the bad actors in this corruption and people trying to expose that bad acting. I don't know if we've got any contributions from Kathleen Zellner and Dean and Jerry and Steve and Laura, but or even Steve Glynn and Walt Kelly. The fact that the bad actors have agreed to take part in this, maybe they thought it was some sort of advocacy piece for Stephen's conviction. But as I say, we really don't know yet. The trailers can often be, misleading. Different people interpret them in different ways. But what I do find interesting is this. Okay, I'm going to share some stuff with you from about a month ago that Sean Reck posted. So let's go to share screen and let's go up here. This was just over a month ago. This is what Sean Reck put. Producer, director of documentary films. Why did we just spend nearly 5 years making a docu-series about, among other things, a docu-series? This is why. Hashtag documentary, filmmaking, journalism, ethics, credibility, responsibility. And then he posted this link. CMSI, the state of journalism on the documentary filmmaking scene. Now, as a lot of you will know, that's really of interest to me. I am really, really interested in the journalism side of this case and how things are reported, whether they're fair, balanced, etc., etc. So I've got a lot to say about my thoughts on the trailer that I've heard so far, but I think we should really have a look at this document that Sean Reck pointed out a month ago. And I must say, it was always my intention, as soon as I found this document, to do a video straight away. So I've kind of procrastinated. So I do apologize for that. But hopefully, there we go. And I must say, this is quite a colorful little article, 30 pages long, although it's not actually that long. There's it's about 24 pages of actual writing, and there's some good photographs along the way. So let's have a look. The state of journalism on the documentary filmmaking scene by Patricia Odfahide and Marissa Woods. I say this is from September 2021. Let's come on down. Funding provided by American University and the Ford Foundation defrayed the cost of this research, conducted independently at the Center for Media and Social Impact. Neither the university nor the foundation had control or influence over the research questions, research design, or results. American University's Institutional Review Board approved the methods used in this study. Headline: The State of Journalism on the Documentary Filmmaking Scene, September 2021. Executive summary. We asked 66 professionals across the field of documentary-focused journalism. As documentary becomes an ever larger feature of the media landscape, is journalism addressing documentary's role in the informational environment for public life? And where are their weaknesses? What would help? They told us that the burgeoning field of documentary has developed without internal standards and practices for accuracy, avoiding conflict of interest, representational fairness, and other ethical standards. It also has historically had little critical or investigative scrutiny from journalism, either from critics or reporters. This means the field of documentary lacks both the benefits of increased awareness and the accountability measures that journalism can provide. Excuse me. The ecology of information circulation about documentary is dysfunctional for many other reasons as well. The economic crisis of journalism more generally, arts journalism's complicity with public relations, the common characterization of documentary film as entertainment, systematic lack of opportunity for rising and BIPOC critical voices, and absence of publicly available data about the field. Interviewees recommended a variety of ways to address the problem. Documentarians need to articulate and publicize the standards of their field. Journalistic editors need to know more about the growing importance of the documentary business. Critics need to know about the history and aesthetics of documentary. There should be more public discussion of documentary standards. Interviewees also described a variety of programs, venues, and models to accomplish these goals. And immediately, we get a picture of a nice big tiger. Documentary film has become a popular form of entertainment and a meaningful source of information and misinformation about the world, and yet it lacks an ecology like the one surrounding mainstream news coverage about politics and economics, in which public scrutiny through journalism on assertions and expressions provide accountability. The network of accountability well mapped by Benkler, Faris, and Roberts. It also lacks the intimate, sometimes disturbingly intimate relationship between critic and artist in the arts world, or even the now fraying relationship between critic and pop culture producers in the fiction film environment. I'm not sure about that, whether there are some excellent journalists out there, but I tell you what, you want to go to Wisconsin and listen to some of those journalists if you want to hear a load of codswallop and people just parroting what Ken Kratz fed them. Documentary filmmaking is thus on the informational frontier, without expectations or norms for responsible conduct, and yet it is entertainment with a claim to significance, to interpreting real life and giving meaning to the deluge of data we swim in every day. Without a vibrant ecology of information circulation, it can easily become as much part of the problem as misinformation as a solution for it. Tiger King has many elements of reality shows, but Netflix calls it a documentary series. How does journalism currently work to hold documentary filmmaking accountable for its claim to be truthful, good faith portrait, or something real in the world? What deficits exist in this area and why? What support and interventions would maximize its potential to bolster accountability to the viewing public in this vitally important form? To address this question, we did a scan of the information environment using searches through academic libraries and the internet, through suggestions from editors and writers and information from interviewers. We interviewed 34 professionals connected to journalism and documentary filmmaking, including 12 critics, 7 journalists, 8 academics, 3 film festival programmers, 7 documentary filmmakers, 6 editors, 1 consultant, 1 funder, 4 producers, 3 professionals in leadership positions at publications, and 3 professionals in leadership positions at film festivals. Some people fall into more than one category. The group consisted of 16 female and 17 male participants and at least 1 non-binary person. 9 of them were BIPOC. The interviewees also represent a variety of career stages. We interviewed 13 veterans, 18 mid-career professionals, and 3 emerging professionals. All were offered confidentiality, and after review of the draft document, the chance to either list or keep off the list their names as interviewees. We also held 3 meetings with a variety of thought leaders who discussed a draft version of the report and refined suggestions for change. A total of 32 professionals participated in these convenings, including 8 academics, 8 journalists, 8 producers, 2 directors, 4 programmers, 2 critics, 1 editor, 4 individuals in festival leadership positions, and 14 professionals representing funding entities. As before, some participants are listed in more than one category. This time, 17 female and 15 male participants joined these conversations. 15 of them, 47%, are BIPOC. The group consisted of 14 veterans in their respective fields and 18 mid-career professionals. A list of those who wanted to be recognized is in the appendix. Our results are described below. We first described the growth of importance of documentary film as a resource for public knowledge. Next, we look at the relationship between independent documentary filmmaking and public trust. Third, we summarize the state of standards and practices in documentary production, standards that typically set public and journalistic expectations. We then examine the state of journalism, both film criticism and reporting on the business of documentary today. Our interviewees' various analyses to explain the state of documentary-focused journalisms and then summarized. Finally, we summarize proposals for ways to support more and better journalism in this area. Documentary film growing faster than its standards. Documentary film has never been more important in the media diet of Americans. Documentary production has grown dramatically in the last 3 decades as production fueled by Discovery, National Geographic, Amazon, Netflix, Hulu, and niche content providers show us market data from Nash Information Services 2021 demonstrates documentary's rapid growth at the box office in recent years. The number of annually documentary theatrical releases has more than tripled since 2000. Non-fiction programming on TV has experienced a similar upward trend. Likewise, non-fiction programming is an increasingly important content category on streaming platforms. Netflix Tiger King 2020 was one of the most watched SVOD original series of 2020, outpacing The Mandalorian on Disney. The documentary genre, up 120% from 2019 to 2020, was the fastest growing genre on streaming in 2020. Mainstream documentary has both vastly diversified in the last 2 decades and also become indeterminate at the edges. Documentary is a form distinguished specifically by its claim to tell a meaning-making story in good faith about something that really happened. The line between that claim and fiction has become less clear in some cases. While documentary has long used reenactment, for instance, it has become far more common to incorporate both scenes reenacting an episode, for instance, in Coop 53 and Client 9, and actors simulating a real-life role, Operation Varsity Blues, Entire films have been composed using fictional aesthetics, for instance, Silenced, using a black and white film noir approach for extended reenactment segments, and 1971, using a sepia tone and blurring imagery to hint that reenactment is actually recovered videotape footage. While some filmmakers, including the above referenced film, make their choices explicit within the film, others simply elide fiction with documentary. For instance, Mighty Times, the Children's March, famously faked actual footage from a 1963 civil rights march. The use of reenactment entered new territory when artificial intelligence was used to mimic the voice of Anthony Bourdain in Roadrunner, without revealing the manipulation. Meanwhile, fast-paced entertainment production has seized both on the lower-cost production realities of documentary and the growing popularity of the form to exploit the form's claim to truth for sensationalism. As documentary channel ratings increased in the early 2000s, History Channel began to fill up with UFO stories. Court TV expanded its crime coverage. Discovery and National Geographic channels both packed every moment of their top-rated series with suspense. They borrowed from the look of documentary cinema verite and its claims to unfiltered reality, exploiting it for sensationalism. Reality television, a hybrid of documentary, fiction, and game shows, surpassed sitcoms, dramas, and sport in popularity for the first time in 2002-2003 TV season, according to audience data, and has continued to capture large audiences in recent years. Streamers have fomented binge watching by encouraging production of documentary miniseries. True crime is a top-rated genre in streamed miniseries, which typically recapitulate and even glorify the legitimacy of policing and criminal justice systems that reinforce injustice and inequality. As documentary has grown, production practices have evolved to keep pace, and in some troubling ways. By the 1990s, cable TV had developed factory-like production systems, both in-house and in production companies that serve them, matching their branded looks and styles. These made-for-hire works fed into what became known variously as the non-fiction, factual, and unscripted market. As reality television became its own category, documentary filmmakers often got their first work and learned production practices on reality shows. Filmmakers reported being told what to tell people in their films to say. Productions skimped on or skipped fact-checking. Field producers never met editors, who themselves were being told to cut to brand messaging and expectation. Fiction and fact blur. All the while, audiences have remained largely in the dark with respect to these practices and have tended to accept these stories at face value. In service to the market, commercial productions borrow the mantle of authenticity from public trust in the documentary form to give works more audience appeal. Documentaries help form the architecture of the studio's brand, signaling that they care about the climate, justice, Me Too, and Black Lives Matter movements, as well as projecting an image of the organization as transparent, authentic, and truthful, notes a leading documentary scholar. And so even programs that are not documentary are reclassified to attract the gloss. Operation Varsity Blues, a fiction docudrama starring Matthew Modine, is classified on Netflix's site as a documentary. Netflix's Tiger King had many reality TV aspects, but it was also marketed as a documentary. True crime series can use the trappings of investigation while selecting the evidence to oversimplify and crusade. For instance, The Netflix series Making a Murderer slighted evidence against its central characters, leading some to characterize it as highbrow vigilante justice. But it became widely popular, and it led to a national petition demanding exoneration. How far are we down? We're page 6. Let's do another little bit, and then we'll do the next part later. Let's just do this last little bit of this page here. With the exception of public TV, sponsorship has become a largely unguarded area full of conflict of interest possibilities. Maria Schwarzenegger's child addiction problems with Adderall led her to provide her foundation's funds for a Netflix documentary. Take Your Pills, the foundation's influence is unknown. Verizon fully funded a film by Rory Kennedy, Without a Net, on issues affecting the FCC's E-rate policy. The film does not disclose Verizon's interest in E-rate or conflicting views about how that fund is managed. Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation provides funding that results in substantial media production where funder influence goes unexamined, paying people for their interviews, even giving them their talking points, as seems to have happened in Tiger King, goes unscrutinized. Mike Rowe's 6 Degrees on Discovery is openly funded by fossil fuel corporate interests, reflected in his constant plugs for fossil fuel. With the advent of instant global distribution by streamers, geopolitical questions have become even more relevant to commerce. Streaming companies might avoid films on important issues, such as the murder of journalist Jamal Khashoggi or the death of Kim Jong-un's brother, that could complicate their global businesses. Netflix has taken down content at the request of foreign governments 8 times in recent years, despite the fact that documentaries are its fastest growing category. Netflix President Reed Hastings blandly asserts that censorship is not a concern for the company because it's merely providing entertainment. In this environment, independent documentary filmmaking of the kind showcased on public TV, on CNN docs, ESPN, 30x30 and HBO documentaries has distinguished itself both for, often passionate, authorial voice and integrity, including basic claims to accuracy, authenticity, and transparency about perspective. As that market has heated up, however, and with the addition of streamers such as Amazon, Netflix, and Hulu, these documentaries have also become hot commodities for their ability to win critical attention and awards. At Sundance 2021, streamers easily outpriced other purchasers in acquiring documentaries, to the point of raising questions about further concentration in the distribution arena. Documentaries' legitimacy and credibility accrues as well to the organizations that distribute them. At the same time, transparency about standards and practices resides exclusively in public broadcasting, where PBS standards and frontline journalistic guidelines are used. So I think we'll just take that as being our first part, and as I say, I want to start off with this first, and I want to cover a little bit of background. As I say, I wouldn't want you to be, thinking of Sean Reck as some kind of enemy at the moment. Yes, he makes documentaries. He makes some very good documentaries. Murder in the Park, Right Boy Wick. We have to wait to see. I do know it's going to be 10 44-minute long episodes, and we've only seen a little bit of a trailer, which obviously I would imagine that Transition Studios has tried to show some sort of balance and what's going on. And as I say, we just have to wait and see what actually transpires. it's funny that watching the trailer and you've got Ken Cratch using profanity. You know, doesn't make you look good, Ken. Doesn't make you look good at all. Anyway, I'm gonna crack on, do some work, and as I say, this is part one of this sort of background to Convicting a Murderer, and we'll just have to read through that. Then I've got a few thoughts that I've had, particularly about Colburn, which I want to share with you. But I want to get this done first. Okay, catch you all soon. Bye for now.